Hello everyone and welcome to my first impressions video of the La-7 in DCS world. This is a new World War II module that has just released. It took me a bit by surprise, I was not expecting it to be released so soon, but I decided to pick it up and see what it was like. I love the La-5 in things like IL-2, it's my favourite Soviet aircraft of World War II. And so the La-7 being an evolution of that seemed like a really good fit for me, so I wanted to try it out, and I've been playing around a little bit in both single player and a multiplayer training session we had, and honestly, I've kind of fallen in love with this. So let's break this down and see what it's like. We'll be breaking this video down into sections with time cards down below, so feel free to skip on to the part that interests you the most. First I'll be looking at how well implemented the current model is, so how detailed it is, how it looks graphically, how the sound is looking, how accurate it all is. Then I'll be going on to how the gameplay feels like. Is it competitive? How does it actually feel to fly, feel to get into a dogfight with? And then rounding off with perhaps the slightly awkward thing of where this fits into DCS world. Anyway, let's jump in. So yeah, first of all, what does this module look like? And I've got to say, it looks bloody awesome. It's really, really nice. You can see the in-cockpit detail is fantastic. It's just entered the early access, but everything is looking good. You can see the detail on all of the individual dials. You've got glass scraping there. Got little paint marks on the individual pieces. Huge amount of detail has gone in. I do not believe there is a pilot model just yet. I believe that's something that's coming. But otherwise, the rest of this is looking really, really nice. The detail might be a little over the top. As I noticed when I first tried in VR, here the leather padding on the sight, the strings that are stitching the leather together, these are not textures, these are 3D models that they have put in. The individual stitching is actually 3D modelled. This is kind of an insane level of detail. I don't know how this is going to work on everybody's setup. Works fine on mine, but I am very aware that I do have a far beyond average PC. So yeah, would be interested to see how people's performance is on sort of more medium-end PCs. Exterior, though, again, looking awesome. We've got a range of different liveries that are available from the offset. Yeah, all really, really highly detailed. Damage model also looks really good. All in all, very, very pretty to look at aircraft. The other thing I wanted to mention in terms of graphics is the canopy is actually really nice looking. It's been a complaint that I've had in the past that sometimes modules overdo either canopy reflections or canopy damage, to the point it's a real struggle to see out of it. In this case, I think they've done a really nice compromise. There is definitely canopy damage that you can see. You can see here there's scratches and so on the canopy. There's dirt around the framing of the canopy. But none of it is to the point that I can't see out. I've had several dogfights in this, including several on conditions where the sun is very low on the horizon, and I've not had an issue. Equally, there's no issues with the canopy reflection being too much, like what you get in, say, the 190 Anton, where the canopy reflections really can blind you. Here they definitely exist, you can see there on the back section. But it's not to the point where it is going to be a major issue and blind you. The last little detail I wanted to point out that I noticed looked really nice is the nav lights, and the reflection off the wing of the nav lights looks really, really pretty, especially in low light conditions. It's not just a glowing ball, you can really see the light there, the reflection, see the textures on the wing surface. Very, very nice to look at. Next up, I wanted to cover the sound a little bit because this is something that really kind of amazed me in terms of the sound and design in this module. It is right up there with the absolute best of DCS. I struggle to think of anything with better sounds. Particularly the gun sounds are amazing. Really, really throaty sound to those guns, and you hear the canopy shaking with the guns firing, which is a really cool little attention to detail. Really feels like you're handling kind of World War II fighter plane rather than a modern, precisely engineered jet. Externally, the sounds are also really nice. The engine sounds. We get that wonderful whine of the engine when you're pulling Gs. Yes, a sound is something that I normally don't particularly notice too much of in DCS modules, but they really have gone in on this particular module. So yeah, Octopus have done a fantastic job here with this module. This is a really, really highly detailed, really authentic looking recreation. Next up though, I want to discuss how this flies, how it competes with other aircraft, and here I've been really, really impressed. The La-7 is my favourite kind of Soviet World War II fighter, so it's probably no surprise that I gelled really well with this, but I'm really impressed with just how good it is in general. It performs really, really well at both high speed and low speed conditions. It's really controllable. Getting down to very, very, very low speed, you can absolutely do silly things like trying to stall out other aircraft, and you can be in a really good position even without flaps, and then you've got some really aggressive flaps as well that you can deploy if you need to. And at a high speed, this thing is a very, very fast plane. I was outrunning 190s on the ground with this. Acceleration is also amazing. You can go from that low flight situation, low speed situation, to catching up and chasing down enemies very fast. The engine has a lot of power to it. And in terms of the turn rate, it is also really, really good. Definitely outcompetes 190s. Seems a bit more on par with the 109 Kurfürst. So definitely seems like it can be outturned by something like a Spitfire, but still really, really competitive there in a turn fight. And in particular, I've found that vertical maneuvers in this thing are great. With that really powerful engine, the acceleration you have, you can just keep doing vertical loops, which is a really nice trick to pull out if someone is on your 6. Many other planes really struggle to keep up with this thing in the vertical. Its armament is also really, really good. It's got two 20mm Schwach cannons, which may not sound like much, but they're both nose-mounted, they're both really high velocity, and that means that these are really easy to aim. In fact, in a lot of my sessions I found that I was over-leading targets, so I'm used to slower velocity munitions. Very often when I was at close range, I really didn't have to lead them at all, just aim for the nose and I would hit the aircraft. And when they do hit, they properly hurt. One of the people I was flying against described it as sounding like either an air-to-air missile had hit him or flak had gone off inside his aircraft. And damage-wise, that pretty much seems to be what it was doing. It was knocking massive holes in wings, and if you ever get a center fuselage hit with these, it's pretty much immediate pilot death. I've got more pilot snipes with this than I have in any other World War II aircraft, and I've only had this for a couple of days. Now you do only get 170 rounds of ammunition for each gun, but that actually goes a surprisingly long way. I was expecting this to have very, very low ammunition, again thinking about a lot of other World War II Soviet aircraft where you run dry really fast. This one, as long as you practice trigger discipline, you've actually got a fair amount there. In some of the training sessions I had, I was getting, you know, a 3-4 kill sorties before I had to go and rearm. The nice thing is, as I said, because when you hit you do a lot of damage, you don't need to keep pouring on the shots like you do with, say, 50 cals. You just need to get a couple of good strikes in, and that is the enemy at least no longer combat capable, if not dead. And in terms of engine management, I also found this to be pretty easy. It is harder than a lot of the, say, German aircraft with a lot of automatic systems, but I didn't find myself struggling as much as I would with, say, American or definitely the British aircraft. You do have controls over cowl inlet, cowl outlet, and oil flaps for your cooling systems that are all operated manually. You also have RPM controls and throttle controls, which does sound like quite a lot, but in terms of what you actually need to do, it's really not too bad. What I was doing on a Mariana's about 20 degrees C map was I was just flying happily with all of them fully open. I never touched the inlet covers. That does kill the engine really quickly if you close those up. But what I'd do is, as soon as I would see an enemy, I would put the outlet covers into the 50% position, which puts them nice and flush with the front of the nose. And then as soon as I'd actually engage, I would fully close the oil cover. And even pushing RPM and throttle to full, this still gave me good, 5-10 minutes combat with those settings. Then all I'd need to do is remember to reset that between individual engagements, let the engine cool back down, and just keep an eye on the one temperature gauge that you need to make sure that doesn't hit max. If it hits max, the engine dies pretty much immediately. But still, that's something that I was keeping track of quite happily. You just kind of think of it almost as a last-minute fence-in, adjust the various cooling systems, go for your combat, and then just reset afterwards. In my sessions, this was absolutely bullying 190 Antons, 190 Doras, and was still winning happily against Kurfürsts. Now, in terms of its utility, I would say that in terms of ground attack, it's not great. The cannons certainly do mean you can do accurate strafing. The problem is that its maximum bomb capacity is just a pair of 100 kilogram bombs, which really isn't much, even compared to things like the Spitfire have a heavier warhead capacity than this. So really not great for ground pounding. But in terms of air-to-air, it is excellent. So far I've just been heaping praise on this thing, and it would be an easy recommendation, especially with the price point of 40 euros, which isn't bad at all. That's a on sale price for some modern jets, so it's actually really reasonably priced for a DCS module. But there is a big but here, in that I don't know how well this fits into DCS World. I've had a lot of fun with it, but we were just starting a custom furball where I just threw this on Blue Force side on a Mariana's map. Absolutely ahistorical, was a lot of fun, but in terms of multiplayer servers, I don't know where it's going to fit in. By far the most popular World War II server in DCS is 4YA's Project Overlord, but that is a server that really prides itself on authenticity, and they run exclusively Normandy campaign missions that are really accurate, down to if a plane was not at an airfield on a particular date, it is not available in their mission. And I just can't see them adding the La-7 to that. They did add the Corsair from a carrier takeoff, kind of giving kind of fleet air arm lend-lease Corsairs there. But unless I'm very, very much mistaken, I don't think Britain ever had any versions of the La-7. I can't see a reason why they would be sent any. And this goes into a broader problem that we don't really have an ideal setting for this. Definitely got opponents, unlike the Corsair, which I've not picked up because it really doesn't have any real things to fly against until we get the Japanese aircraft released for the Pacific. Here the La-7 does absolutely have the Kurfürst, it has the Dora, it has the Anton, it can fly against all of those. Those are era appropriate, but it's got nowhere to really fly these. The best it has is Caucasus, and even then it's kind of the wrong area of Caucasus. By the time this thing is out, you've pushed beyond that. You can kind of use it, but then it's really not going to line up with kind of actual historical settings. I guess you could use the Germany Cold War map and just kind of squint, but honestly I think it's going to be a real challenge for campaign designers to fit into any kind of historical setting. And in all honesty, it seems that historical recreations is where the World War II setting is. We certainly have lots of alt history and fictional campaigns, but in terms of World War II setting, people do like reliving actual campaigns, and this just doesn't seem to fit that, so I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't get a lot of campaigns. And equally for custom single player content, you've got to be happy flying a very alt history version, so I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of this in single player. That doesn't leave a lot here. I'm holding out hope that the contention servers add this. At time of recording, they've not done that yet, but warbirds are a minor part of that, so I wouldn't expect them to be rushing to get it out, but I can't see any reason why they wouldn't eventually add this. Personally, I really hope they add it to the Blue 4 side. I think this could be a really, really fun aircraft on Blue 4. When you get into Warbird versus Warbird content, you'll be flying against things like the Anton, really, really fun. And I think, although this isn't going to be good at ground striking, this is an excellent helicopter hunter. But even then, the Warbird scene on contention is really quite a minor part. They're useful, they have their role, they do their own little niche, but they're not for everybody. They certainly are massive underdogs, even on the Cold War setting. And as I said, contention haven't added it. They might find a reason not to add it. I can't think of why, but I don't know yet. And so that leaves this really, really nice module in just a bit of a weird place. I love the plane. I would recommend it thoroughly if I knew where you would actually play it. But there's not a lot of single player, there's not a lot of multiplayer, it's just kind of a big question mark. And this is absolutely not a reflection of the developer of the module itself, this is more a reflection on Eagle Dynamics' scattergun approach to green-lighting modules, that there is no plan, they're just randomly put out there. And so we end up a lot with these modules that don't really fit into the current climate. And if you've seen Enigma's interview with Nick Gray, you can see that, yeah, they kind of don't care about fitting modules in, which is all a bit awkward. So yeah, that's where I'm going to round this one off in a really quite awkward place. This is a fantastic module. I love all of the time that I've put in flying it. Really well done, really nice, enjoyable to play, good mix of challenging but fun, amazing sound, amazing graphics, maybe over the top graphics, but it just doesn't quite fit into DCS right now. Now all of that might well change in the future. Certainly if we ever get a Korea map, this fits in quite nicely there. It would be certainly interesting taking this up against things like Sabres, but for now it's just a big question mark of where you're actually supposed to use this thing. So yeah, that is as best as I can do for this kind of first impression review here. Do let me know what you thought down below in the comments. And if you found this video useful, please do consider like, comment, subscribe. All helps does promote the video to the YouTube algorithm and get this seen by more people. But as always, until next time, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.